There are some games that boggle the mind, that defy all logic and yet still hold a very special place in your heart. Kingdom Hearts is that series for me. The best way I can describe Kingdom Hearts to someone who has never experienced it is this. You know how the SCP community is full of keywords like Euclid, Keter, A-Class Amnestic, and Redacted? They flaunt around in order to give the universe a sense of cohesion and continuity? Well, replace those words with heart, darkness, light, data, and Keyblade. Swap out the legion of turbo nerds monitoring the community to maintain internal consistency with an autistic kid. I am actually autistic, I can make that joke. Slapping his action figures and OCs together in absurd and ridiculous situations. Yeah, the story's a flat-out mess. But there's a fascinating charm to it that ropes you in. I'm torn, as story is usually one of the most important things to me, but this series has a way of putting me in a roller coaster state, where the particulars of the story no longer matter to me, and I'm just watching for the absurd emotional highs and crazy circumstances that I get to play through. You know Schrodinger's cat? Where you place a cat in a box where it has a 50% chance to die, but you have no way of knowing? So by all laws of scientific observation it is both alive and dead? Well, Kingdom Hearts is Schrodinger's anime. You have no way of knowing whether or not it is an absurd parody written by a madman for the lulz, or an attempt at a serious story that's failed miserably. Regardless, I'm not going to go through the story of every game, as I don't want to give myself nor yourself an aneurysm with a most likely inadequate summary of 11 different games on 9 different platforms. No, I am not joking, so instead I'll just say one last thing about Kingdom Hearts 3's story. It does better than a lot of the other games in taking in a lot of the loose threads from said games and tying them into a neat little bow. Besides that, all I need to know is this.
For those of you who don't know anything about Kingdom Hearts, something to be aware of.
Get ready for a trip.
Before we get in, that Kingdom Hearts exists in a world run by what I like to call quantum metaphysics.
Okay.
It's very metaphysical, but beyond what normal metaphysical shit even does. It has its own logic that it sometimes decides to explain to you.
Now for the thing the majority of you will actually care about, and the thing that's almost universally praised, the gameplay. Kingdom Hearts is a hack-and-slash JRPG at its core, which means over-the-top action, outstanding visual flair, and rocking music, all of which this game has in spades. It also addresses a long-running problem that I've had with many JRPGs, where they take far too long to fully capitalize on their mechanics. In the case of a game like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you don't get fully acquainted with the gameplay systems until about a third of the way through the game. But Kingdom Hearts thankfully introduces you to the majority of the gameplay systems in the first world, preventing this feeling that you're playing a essentially handicapped version of the game's combat system for a good chunk of the experience. Speaking of combat, there are two basic forms of attack. There's your standard Keyblade combo, and magic. All attacks, including magic, fill up an action meter. What the completed bar will result in is dependent on the type of attack used most frequently, and if there are multiple action commands, they can be swapped between with the L2 button and activated with the triangle button. If the primary attack was a combo with a Keyblade, then the action command will be a Keyblade transformation with its own unique combos, abilities, and interactions with magic. If magic was primarily used, then it becomes Grand Magic, that requires no mana to cast and has a very powerful effect. This game combat truly shines when these systems are used in tandem with each other in unique and interesting combos. It's a shame then that the game rarely requires you to. Most enemies are a non-threat, and you're given so many high damage dealing, low risk options like attractions, which, yes, you can just ignore, but when you're forced to menu around an option, so it doesn't completely break the game because the game doesn't give an option to turn it off, I wouldn't call that ideal. Now back to the positives. I've always appreciated Kingdom Hearts' leveling and ability system. It uses an AP system, or ability point system, where as you progress you gain both action points and abilities that cost a certain amount of action points, and you can swap between these abilities whenever. So you can swap out some offensive abilities for more movement options, or unique counters, or you can sacrifice some stats in order to equip an item that gives more AP, instead of said stat bonuses. This risk-reward and player choice dynamic I always found refreshing. It's also refreshing that a lot of the abilities and stat upgrades aren't locked behind grinding, and instead are obtained naturally as you progress throughout a world, thus making level 1 runs significantly less tedious, to the point that level 1 Proud Mode is the only true challenging yet fair game mode in the game. As for the worlds you'll be romping through in your adventure, they're all wide open, expansive areas that make great use of your movement abilities, such as Flow Motion, which allows you to run up walls, adding a sense of verticality, dash off walls for an extra boost to speed, and they also provide some interesting combat potential if you know how to string them in well. This also ties in with the shot lock mechanic, where by holding R1 you go into this slowed time state where you can either click the square button to flow motion to a certain object or enemy, or hold it down and charge it and press X to do a special long-ranged attack, again providing the player with more options. These make almost all the levels a blast to explore and fight in, though fair warning, with a few minor exceptions, the worlds will typically follow a pattern where if it follows the Disney film's plot, then what you'll get is a boring romp through a summary of the plot of said movie told with half the pacing and none of the charm. While if they do their own thing, then you can expect a ridiculous joyride through some of your favorite Disney locations and see how Disney characters react to some of Kingdom Hearts series' most ridiculous BS, like Soul yeeting one of the most powerful villains through multiple doors, or Woody telling young Xehanort that nobody loves him after several mecha fights through a multi-story toy store. Yes, classic Kingdom Hearts beautiful nonsense. The game could benefit from some DLC like a critical mode that's present in other Kingdom Hearts games, where it lowers your health but gives you unique abilities and increases your damage output. Would be a great way to increase challenge. But in every other aspect, it's a fantastic game, with excellent levels, excellent visuals, excellent music, excellent combat, and a roller coaster of a story that's, admittedly not for everyone, but is enjoyable nonetheless. The Kingdom Hearts series as a whole can be a chore to get into, but it's a wild ride from beginning to end, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is definitely one of the best.